Physical activity and health. All Americans should engage in regular physical activity to improve overall health and fitness and to prevent negative health outcomes. The benefits of physical activity occur in generally healthy people of all ages, in people at risk of developing chronic diseases, and in people with chronic conditions or disabilities. This chapter describes an overview of research findings on physical activity and health. The accompanying box provides a summary of these benefits. Physical activity affects many health conditions, and the specific amounts and types of activity that benefit each condition vary. In developing public health guidelines, the challenge is to integrate scientific information across all health benefits and identify a critical range of physical activity that appears to have an effect across the health benefits. One consistent finding from research studies is that once the health benefits from physical activity begin to accumulate, additional amounts of activity provide additional benefits. Some health benefits occur immediately after an episode of physical activity. Other benefits begin with as little as 60 minutes a week. Research shows that a total amount of at least 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity, such as brisk walking, consistently reduces the risk of many chronic diseases and other adverse health outcomes. Examining the relationship between physical activity and health. In many studies covering a wide range of issues, researchers have focused on exercise as well as on the more broadly defined concept of physical activity. Studies have examined the role of physical activity in many groups: men and women, children, adolescents, adults, older adults, people with chronic conditions and disabilities, and women during pregnancy and the postpartum period. These studies have focused on the role that physical activity plays in many health outcomes, including all-cause mortality, diseases such as coronary heart disease, stroke, cancer at multiple sites, type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, and osteoporosis. Risk factors for disease, such as overweight or obesity, hypertension, and high blood cholesterol. Physical fitness, such as aerobic capacity and muscle strength and endurance. Functional capacity, or the ability to engage in activities needed for daily living. Brain health and conditions that affect cognition, such as depression and anxiety, and Alzheimer's disease, and falls or injuries from falls. These studies have also prompted questions as to what type of physical activity and how much is needed for various health benefits. To answer this question, investigators have studied three main kinds of physical activity: aerobic, muscle strengthening, and bone strengthening. Investigators have also studied balance and flexibility activities. Aerobic activity. In this kind of physical activity, also called an endurance activity or cardio activity, the body's large muscles move in a rhythmic manner for a sustained period of time. Brisk walking, running, bicycling, jumping rope, and swimming are all examples. Aerobic activity causes a person's heart to beat faster, and they will breathe harder than normal.
Aerobic physical activity has three components: intensity, or how hard a person works to do the activity. The intensities most often studied are moderate, equivalent in effort to brisk walking, and vigorous, equivalent in effort to running or jogging. Frequency, or how often a person does aerobic activity, and duration, or how long a person does an activity in any one session. Although these components make up an aerobic physical activity profile, research has shown that the total amount of physical activity, minutes of moderate intensity physical activity in a week, for example, is more important for achieving health benefits than is any one component, frequency, intensity, or duration. All time spent in moderate or vigorous intensity physical activity counts toward meeting the key guidelines. Muscle strengthening activity. This kind of activity, which includes resistance training and weightlifting, causes the body's muscles to work or hold against an applied force or weight. These activities often involve lifting relatively heavy objects, such as weights, multiple times to strengthen various muscle groups. Muscle strengthening activity can also be done by using elastic bands or body weight for resistance, climbing a tree or doing push-ups, for example. Muscle strengthening activity has three components. Intensity, or how much weight or force is used relative to how much a person is able to lift. Frequency, or how often a person does muscle strengthening activity, and sets and repetitions, or how many times a person does the muscle strengthening activity, like lifting a weight or doing a push-up, comparable to duration for aerobic activity. The effects of muscle strengthening activity are limited to the muscles doing the work. It is important to work all the major muscle groups of the body: the legs, hips, back, abdomen, chest, shoulders, and arms. Bone strengthening activity. This kind of activity, sometimes called weight-bearing or weight-loading activity, produces a force on the bones of the body that promotes bone growth and strength. This force is commonly produced by impact with the ground. Examples of bone strengthening activity include jumping jacks, running, brisk walking, and weightlifting exercises. As these examples illustrate, bone strengthening activities can also be aerobic and muscle strengthening. Balance activities. These kinds of activities can improve the ability to resist forces within or outside of the body that cause falls while a person is stationary or moving. Walking backward, standing on one leg, or using a wobble board are examples of balance activities. Strengthening muscles of the back, abdomen, and legs also improves balance. Flexibility activities. These kinds of activities enhance the ability of a joint to move through the full range of motion. Stretching exercises are effective in increasing flexibility, and thereby can allow people to more easily do activities that require greater flexibility. The health benefits of physical activity. Research demonstrates that participating in regular moderate to vigorous physical activity provides many health benefits. Some benefits of physical activity can be achieved immediately, such as reduced feelings of anxiety, reduced blood pressure, and improvements in sleep, some aspects of cognitive function, and insulin sensitivity. Other benefits, such as increased cardiorespiratory fitness, increased muscular strength, decreases in depressive symptoms, and sustained reduction in blood pressure, require a few weeks or months of participation in physical activity. Physical activity can also slow or delay the progression of chronic diseases, such as hypertension and type 2 diabetes. Benefits persist with continued physical activity. The health benefits of physical activity are seen in children and adolescents, young and middle-aged adults, older adults, women and men, people of different races and ethnicities, and people with chronic conditions or disabilities. The health benefits of physical activity are generally independent of body weight. Adults of all sizes and shapes gain health and fitness benefits by being habitually physically active. The benefits of physical activity also outweigh the risk of injury and heart attacks, two concerns that may prevent people from becoming physically active. Benefits associated with regular physical activity. Improved bone health, ages 3 through 17 years. Improved weight status, ages 3 through 17 years. Improved cardiorespiratory and muscular fitness, ages 6 through 17 years. Improved cardiometabolic health, ages 6 through 17 years. Improved cognition, ages 6 to 13 years, asterisk. Reduced risk of depression, ages 6 to 13 years. Adults and older adults. Lower risk of all-cause mortality. Lower risk of cardiovascular disease mortality. Lower risk of cardiovascular disease, including heart disease and stroke. Lower risk of hypertension. Lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Lower risk of adverse blood lipid profile. Lower risk of cancers of the bladder, breast, colon, endometrium, esophagus, kidney, lung, and stomach. Improved cognition *. Reduced risk of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. Improved quality of life. Reduced anxiety. Reduced risk of depression. Improved sleep. Slowed or reduced weight gain. Weight loss, particularly when combined with reduced calorie intake. Prevention of weight regain following initial weight loss. Improved bone health. Improved physical function. Lower risk of falls, older adults. Lower risk of fall-related injuries, older adults.
The role of fitness in health. Physical fitness is an important factor in the ability of people to perform routine daily activities and an important issue from a public health perspective. Physical fitness has been defined as the ability to carry out daily tasks with vigor and alertness, without undue fatigue, and with ample energy to enjoy leisure time pursuits and respond to emergencies. Physical fitness has multiple components, including cardiorespiratory fitness, endurance or aerobic power, musculoskeletal fitness, flexibility, balance, and speed of movement. Components of physical fitness. Cardiorespiratory fitness. The ability to perform large muscle, whole body exercise at moderate to vigorous intensities for extended periods of time. Musculoskeletal fitness. The integrated function of muscle strength, muscle endurance, and muscle power to enable performance of work. Flexibility. The range of motion available at a joint or group of joints. Balance. The ability to maintain equilibrium while moving or while stationary. Speed. The ability to move the body quickly. A substantial body of research has examined the relationship between physical fitness, cardiorespiratory fitness and, in some cases, musculoskeletal fitness and health outcomes. The findings show that greater physical fitness is associated with reduced all-cause mortality and cardiovascular disease mortality and reduced risk of developing a wide range of chronic diseases, such as type 2 diabetes and hypertension. To date, most studies were done in men, but new data indicate these relationships also exist in women. Physical activity and physical fitness are related to each other, and both provide important health benefits. Increases in the amount and intensity of physical activity typically produce increases in physical fitness, particularly in those who are less physically active. The available evidence suggests that physical activity and physical fitness interact in their effects on a variety of health outcomes. Some possible ways that fitness and health outcomes may relate to physical activity are: physical activity leads to improvements in physical fitness, and physical fitness causes improvements in health outcomes. Physical fitness may modify the amount of the effect that physical activity has on health outcomes, or physical activity can lead to improved physical fitness as a health outcome.
The role of fitness in health. Physical fitness is an important factor in the ability of people to perform routine daily activities and an important issue from a public health perspective. Physical fitness has been defined as the ability to carry out daily tasks with vigor and alertness, without undue fatigue, and with ample energy to enjoy leisure time pursuits and respond to emergencies. Physical fitness has multiple components, including cardiorespiratory fitness, endurance or aerobic power, musculoskeletal fitness, flexibility, balance, and speed of movement. Components of physical fitness. Cardiorespiratory fitness. The ability to perform large muscle, whole body exercise at moderate to vigorous intensities for extended periods of time. The beneficial effects of increasing physical activity. It is about overload, progression, and specificity. Overload is the physical stress placed on the body when physical activity is greater in amount or intensity than usual. The body's structures and functions respond and adapt to these stresses. For example, aerobic physical activity places a stress on the cardiorespiratory system and muscles, requiring the lungs to move more air and the heart to pump more blood and deliver it to the working muscles. This increase in demand increases the efficiency and capacity of the lungs, heart, circulatory system, and exercising muscles. In the same way, Muscle strengthening and bone strengthening activities overload muscles and bones, making them stronger. Progression is closely tied to overload. Once a person reaches a certain fitness level, he or she is able to progress to higher levels of physical activity by continued overload and adaptation. Small, progressive changes in overload help the body adapt to the additional stresses while minimizing the risk of injury. Specificity means that the benefits of physical activity are specific to the body systems that are doing the work. For example, the physiologic benefits of walking are largely specific to the lower body and the cardiovascular system. Push ups primarily benefit the muscles of the chest, shoulders, and upper arms.
The following sections provide more detail on what is known from research studies about the specific health benefits of physical activity. All-cause mortality. Strong scientific evidence shows that physical activity delays death from all causes. This includes the leading causes of death, such as heart disease and some cancers, as well as other causes of death. This effect is remarkable in two ways. First, only a few lifestyle choices have as large an effect on mortality as physical activity. It has been estimated that people who are physically active for approximately 150 minutes a week have a 33% lower risk of all-cause mortality than those who are not physically active. Second, it is not necessary to do large amounts of activity or vigorous intensity activity to reduce the risk of all-cause mortality. Benefits start to accumulate with any amount of moderate or vigorous intensity physical activity. Research clearly demonstrates the importance of avoiding inactivity. Even low amounts of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity reduce the risk of all-cause mortality. As Figure 2:1 shows, a large benefit occurs when a person moves from being inactive to being insufficiently active. The relative risk of all-cause mortality continues to decline as people become even more physically active. Even at very high levels of physical activity, 3 to 5 times the key guidelines, there is no evidence of increased risk. All adults can gain this health benefit of physical activity, no matter their age, sex, race, or ethnicity. Physically active people with all body weights, normal weight, overweight, obesity, also have lower risk of all-cause mortality than do inactive people. Cardiorespiratory health. The benefits of physical activity on cardiorespiratory health are some of the most extensively documented of all the health benefits. Cardiorespiratory health involves the health of the heart, lungs, and blood vessels. Heart disease and stroke are two of the leading causes of death in the United States. Risk factors that increase the likelihood of cardiovascular diseases include smoking, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and high levels of certain blood lipids, such as low-density lipoprotein LDL cholesterol. Low cardiorespiratory fitness also is a risk factor for heart disease. Physical activity strongly reduces both the risk of dying from cardiovascular disease and the risk of developing cardiovascular disease, including heart attack, stroke, and heart failure. Regularly active adults have lower rates of heart disease and stroke and have lower blood pressure, better blood lipid profiles, and better physical fitness. Significant reductions in risk of cardiovascular disease occur at activity levels equivalent to 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity physical activity. As with all-cause mortality, benefits begin with less than 150 minutes a week, and strong evidence shows that greater amounts of physical activity result in even further reductions in risk of cardiovascular disease. Regular physical activity can greatly affect blood pressure, and effects can be immediate. People who have normal blood pressure benefit because the risk of developing hypertension is reduced. People who have hypertension also benefit because systolic and diastolic blood pressure are lowered. Both aerobic and muscle strengthening physical activity are recommended to improve blood pressure. Even physical activity at levels below the key guidelines tends to benefit blood pressure, and engaging in more physical activity can have even greater benefits. Everyone, including children and adolescents, can gain the cardiovascular health benefits of physical activity. The amount of physical activity that provides favorable cardiorespiratory health and fitness outcomes is similar for men and women of all ages, including older people, as well as for adults of various races and ethnicities. Aerobic exercise also improves cardiorespiratory fitness in people with disabilities, including people who have lost the use of one or both legs and those with multiple sclerosis, stroke, and spinal cord injury. Cardiometabolic health and weight management. Cardiometabolic health is a term that encompasses cardiovascular diseases and metabolic diseases, such as type 2 diabetes. Cardiovascular disease and metabolic disease share a number of risk factors, and reducing risk of one can reduce risk for the other. Cardiometabolic health and weight status are also closely related issues and are often considered together. Type 2 diabetes and cardiometabolic health. Regular physical activity strongly reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes in people of all body sizes. Physical activity can have an additive benefit for reducing risk of type 2 diabetes because physical activity reduces the risk of excessive weight gain, an independent risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Adults who regularly engage in aerobic activity of at least moderate intensity have a significantly lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes than do inactive adults. These benefits begin to accrue at levels of physical activity below the key guideline of 150 to 300 minutes a week, and additional amounts of moderate or vigorous intensity physical activity seem to lower risk even further. Insulin sensitivity can be improved with just a single bout of physical activity. In addition, physical activity helps control blood glucose in people who already have type 2 diabetes. Physical activity improves cardiometabolic health in children and adolescents, as well as in adults. Specifically, regular physical activity contributes to lower plasma triglycerides and insulin levels and may also play a role in improving high-density lipoprotein, HDL, cholesterol and blood pressure.